What is going on, everybody? We're back once again with another edition of Wrestling Republic's daily broadcast. It is January 11th. It's a Thursday. It's a Throwback Thursday. I'm stoked to be here, as always, on the heels of a fresh Dynamite last night. We got the usual suspects for Thursday. Today, I'm going to first send it out to Philly, my co-host over on Sold Separately and the head of opinions, Anthony Ricciardi. How are you doing on this fine Thursday evening for you, afternoon for I?
Yeah, not too bad, not too bad. Last night's Dynamite happened. I feel like it was mailed in, but I'm sure we'll get into that.
I hear you. We'll absolutely get into Dynamite, and up next we've got all the way out in the DMV. I haven't seen him since the Tuesday night show off the air with Mr. Amazing. And if you haven't checked it out, what in the world have you been doing for 2 days? But the Tuesday Night Delight is here on another Throwback Thursday. Shad, how are you feeling, my friend?
Throw them twos up, but salute to the top one, my man, Mr. Amazing. If you haven't watched that, watch that episode of Off the Air. It was a phenomenal interview. But I'm good, man. I'm ready to talk about Throwback Thursday, and I'm here for this AEW Dynamite Homecoming review. Let's get it.
Absolutely. I'm excited to get into it. And yeah, once again, Mr. Amazing Monster, shout out, man, an absolute legend. And even Taylor Brooks as well. Thank you. And can't wait to have her on the show. As well, Drizzy, we had a blast on Tuesday night. That was just a great show. It was a time of my life. But let's talk about last night's Dynamite. It was Homecoming, an interesting episode. Been a lot of back and forth as far as at Wrestling Republic opinions on the show, different things. I enjoyed some, other parts I did not. We're going to get into it. Let's talk about our first topic, though. Let's get right into what I thought was actually the juiciest segment of the night, which was Hangman and Swerve's interaction. Swerve first time in Daly's place. Mentioned that it's still Swerve's house. I enjoyed that. He's interacting with Samoa Joe. We have Hangman. Then it turns into the bat signal. And if you know me, you know I am the world's #1 hookamaniac. The bat signal arrives in the rafters, and the Hookster's on his way to the ring. I dug every second of that. I'm excited for Hook and Joe. Anthony, I'm going to toss this one to you, though. What do you think about all of it? Speaking of fatal four-ways, we made a joke connecting the triple threats a few weeks ago. Are we going to see ourselves a tongue-in-cheek fatal four-way out of AEW with these four? Or are we looking at Joe versus Hook one-on-one as soon as possible?
I think you're getting Joe versus Hook one-on-one. I would not be opposed to them doing a triple threat with Joe, Hangman, and Swerve at possibly Revolution. I'd be okay with that. I liked that interaction. I don't view Hook as a legitimate threat to Joe. The bat signal thing, I just shook my head. I don't get the intimidation factor of Hook against Joe. Like, legitimately, I don't look at Hook as a legit threat to Joe. Legitimately. I do think this was the best segment of the night because I think overall the show was lacking in a lot of ways. For a big show, Homecoming, they're making a big deal out of it. Other than some tribute matches to Brody, it really was not like a show that I'd be raving over, personally.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that the tag matches were all right, but I mean, I get where you're coming from a little bit on Hook. I will say though, Taz versus Joe would be a dream match. Yet two just absolute sublime grapplers, suplex machine. Hook has a similar moveset. He's young, he's athletic. I dig it, and I loved the bat signal, but like I said, I am the number one Hookamaniac, right? I eat my chips and take my vitamins, do my swoop every morning in the honor of the Hookster because I'm a fan. I like Hook, and I'm excited about that matchup. But I do hear where you're coming from on a triple threat would make a lot more sense. Shad, what were your thoughts on the entire interaction last night with these four?
So I thought the initial promo from Samoa Joe was phenomenal. We are in a great time period with him as champion. This feels like a champion that is renowned, legendary, one of the greatest of all time in his respected, name for what he's done on other promotions. He's carried gold on a lot of promotions. TNA, ROH, NXT, WWE. So this is a guy who it feels right to see him as champ. And that promo was amazing, man. He's got talk about intimidating. Samoa Joe might be one of the most intimidating people in the world, man. And
Yeah.
he talks with so much confidence. He feels like a champ. It feels a lot different than when Max was champion. And that's not a slight or a knock on Max at all. It's just I think it's a good change of hands for the long run or the short run, however long he has the title. Um, Following to that, we got this continuing feud sprinkled in, and I like it sprinkled in with the title match tied to Samoa Joe as well with Hangman and Swerve. We rave about these two guys and their feud with each other, leading to that match at the last pay per view, and it's something special, man. Not the last pay per view, a couple pay per views ago. It's something special, and I love they just have this hatred, like kind of it's on site type of rivalry, but it didn't get to that level yesterday. I like these potential matches for Samoa Joe. It rejuvenates the main title picture for the AEW title. And it's interesting because Samoa Joe is a heel, but he's kind of a tweener because the fans like him in that regard. Swerve, same thing. He doesn't act like a baby face, but he's a tweener because the fans like him. And then Hangman Adam Page is a baby face, but he's rough around the edges, right? He's got his own woes, and I think it's a recipe of an incredible triple threat match that we will get because that's definitely going to be the move for it. Because I mean, you think about it, man. Like just having those three in the match, that's one of those scenarios where you don't really know who's going to win the title because you can make a case for any three of them. Joe retaining would always be good. Everyone wants Swerve to be champion. I feel like that'd be the hot answer. But Hangman Adam Page is nothing short of being a phenomenal competitor and a champion as well. So I like that interaction. I thought that was the highest of high points last night. Interaction with Hook. Let me be real for a second. I know we've had this man's name in the conversation all week. I didn't get to speak about the interaction with Mr. Tony Khan's,
Yeah.
Twitter fingers, Um, but it's one of those situations where I don't get it. And I'm just going to be completely real with you. I think he's a great fluid worker, but I don't get the character that much because it feels like he's trying to be like his dad, you know, the machine of what he was, the killer, the quiet, just going there taking care of business. But you also have him kind of like a meme character, and you had him with the whole Danhausen and Orange Cassidy, where their gimmicks are, purposely to be more comedic and whatnot. And I feel like that within that time frame muddied up how my perception of what Hook is. Do I think and I have and that's not to me saying he doesn't deserve this title match. I mean, you write yourself a good reason to have this as a good weekly title match. But to Anthony's point, I mean, we know this is just a weekly match. There's nothing, I think the best thing that Tony Khan could have done was make that tweet because now it brings more eyes to want to see how Hook does. But that can either be great or it could be a downfall because
Right.
he's gonna have the spotlight on him next week. We don't expect him to win. I don't think he's gonna beat Samoa Joe, but he's got to have quite a showing, and I'm very interested to see that because I don't think Hook has had matches booked for him where he's someone went against someone to Joe's, you know, caliber. Like he's never been that much of an underdog. He's beaten a lot of people who are on the lower mid cards to, borderline jobbers, um, or at best upper mid cards and legends and stuff. But like he's going against the world champ and he's probably gonna lose. How are you gonna look in defeat? How does this make you look? How is your showing gonna be? It's a make it or break it moment for him. So I wish they would have had a little bit more of an interaction between them two because you gotta, I thought the back symbol thing was pretty cool, not gonna lie. But like I want to see him cut a little bit more promos, man. Like last week they had a promo of him outside with his, bubble jacket, talking like the New Yorker and all of that. Like we need to show that a little bit more, man. Like he needs to be more of that tough guy. Cause I think I'm not calling him a wimp or nothing like that. It's just how the perception of the character is made and how it's gotten muddy. So I think this is a good opportunity to heat him back up and and build him to what we thought he was going to be initially as a star, as a guy who was undefeated as the FTW champ. So, but overall, I love this segment. I thought everything was great with it.
No doubt, and I hear a lot where you're coming from on the Hook stuff. Personally, I'm just a huge fan. I think it's funny, especially the way that like he took off after. I mean, realistically, CM Punk said send Hook, and that just made the meme. You have the chips, right? He's the kid that sits by the lockers, flips his hair back, doesn't say much, but like I wouldn't mess with him necessarily. Is the way that I look at Hook. I call myself the number one Hookamaniac because I think he's outstanding. But I do also agree with you that the result of next week's match is likely inevitable. If he faces off against Joe for the world title.
It's the showing though, yeah.
But to develop in real time in front of our eyes, having a world title opportunity at his age, I think is only going to make him better. And I think the sample size is too small to fully decide what Hook is or who Hook couldn't be, because he's so dang young. In 3 years, I think is when we'll be more inclined to be in a position to truly make the decision, because we've seen plenty. I mean, stunning Steve Austin, right? Like it's the Hollywood Blondes. But developing in the fire itself, I think is something beneficial, and it makes him unique to other performers. And I do see the charisma in a way. Sticking to his guns. Yes, he's quiet. The chips, the I'm a kid stuff. And then he comes out and delivers a bunch of suplexes, a bunch of takeovers, a bunch of moves like that. Judo-esque moves, grappling centric. I hear what you're saying about the comparisons to his dad Taz, but I do see a bright future for Hook if he wants it, right? Developmentally, if he's ready to go get it, I think Hook can at some day or at some point be a main event player. He's also so young. He may put on 25 pounds of muscle.
No, don't get me wrong. The potential is there. I'm not writing him off as a professional wrestler. I'm solely talking about next week AEW title match. I'm not offended by it.
No, for sure.
A lot of people on Twitter are offended by either title match happening next week. I am perfectly fine with either, or I put a tweet out saying that it makes sense. He's a young up and coming star. He has a record. Jinder had a moment with The Rock. He's got the moment with The Rock. That's all I gotta say. He's a former champion, but he had a moment with The Rock. Both of them deserve it, and it's gonna be entertaining at the end of the day.
It's a great point.
Yeah, so
it like you said, it's a moment with The Rock. Like it's a moment with The Rock. Okay, let's run through some comments really quick and we'll move on to the next topic. But we got hello guys here from Bobby Petito. What's going on, Bobby? Good to see you as always. Have a great show from the boss man. Was a fun Dynamite last night for sure. Thank you, Ben. We got another one here from Bobby Petito. Swerve Strickland and Hangman Adam Page will be great opponents for Samoa Joe. I agree. I like both. We've got another one here from Jacob, which is a classic. Second that, I watched Dynamite for the first time ever, and it was very good. He also commented #shot for president. I'm with that 100%. I can get behind that campaign. I'm in. And then Ben Allison added, shout out, boss man. I love it when champions have multiple people coming for them, and this segment had that. Swerve, Hangman, and Hook. But yes, Bobby also shouted out Ben Allison. Yeah, I thought last night's Dynamite was there was going to be a harsh come down after the Twitter narrative, right? The X narrative,
and a great episode last week.
Yeah, and following an outstanding episode, I agree.
Yeah,
it was just hard to follow. But let's move on to another subject, and it's ironic because this match actually happened before the encounter we discussed in the previous segment. But we had Hangman Page versus Claudio, and I picked Claudio to win this one. But who cares? This, to me, was the best wrestled match of the night. This was money. It was a slugfest. I dug it. And I dug the buckshot lariat for the win because I did not anticipate Hangman being tossed.
I'm mad you picked Hangman to lose, but that's all.
Immediately, Hangman's my favorite, by the way. If I have to pick one, Hangman Page is my favorite wrestler in AEW. I'll say that right now. I picked Claudio because I thought Hangman could afford a loss. I didn't anticipate Hangman being immediately inserted into the world title picture. Given the history with Swerve, I understood the history with Swerve. I thought they might hold that off for a second. They did not. I enjoyed that decision, as we just discussed, obviously, in the last segment. But I think this one was fascinating to me because I don't know now where you go with Claudio. Now, as far as Hangman's concerned, he's right back in the world title picture, and he's a former champion. And he's the only former champion not holding the world title right now in that discussion that we just had. So it did serve its purpose in my eyes. Anthony, what were your thoughts on the match? And then just more thoughts on Hangman being inserted back into the world title picture.
Yeah, this was a solid opener. I do think they were trying to do a lot here. Wrestling all over Daly's place. I don't know if that was the smartest move to do that. Especially since it was not a no DQ. It was just a straight up match. Was the first time that they ever faced one another one-on-one. I thought it was like I said, I thought it was a pretty decent match. I love the finish. The double buckshot I thought was a smart choice. It's a shame, like you said, you don't know what they're going to do with Claudio. I kind of feel like Claudio's in the same position he was in with WWE. I don't think Tony Khan views him as the guy that could be a world champion. Yeah, he gave him the world title in Ring of Honor, but that's an afterthought at this point. Hangman being inserted in the world title match, I am fine with that because they established that he got jumped by, the Devil Goons, so it made sense. I don't agree with putting Hangman with Swerve this soon after what happened, after the blow off. But if you do it a triple threat, it adds a new dynamic to it. So I'm okay with it. It's going to be interesting to see where they go with this.
Yeah.
But as a whole, I don't think they have anything planned for Claudio, which is a shame because he's an amazing talent. But I feel like he gets pigeonholed in this position of going, he's a good hand, and that's it.
Yeah, it does seem like there's just more room to push Castagnoli. Like you would hope at least. But like you said, the double buckshot made perfect sense. That to me was the highlight of the match. As far as I'm concerned, it was the key. And Bobby asked here, where does Claudio Castagnoli go since he lost against Hangman Adam Page? I don't know if you do like a tag team run.
You do a tag team.
I think that's your best choice,
unless you start the Kingston thing up again.
And this is a weird one.
Go-to for them.
This is another random one. Why not have him and Miro pair up and run through the tag division real quick? Because you could pair those two guys as great hands, and both are in funky spots as far as the booking's concerned. Great hands.
I like history. To see them feud. I like to see them feud on AEW.
That too, by the way, only because that kind of slugfest would just be.
Yeah, I mean, and it's a good like feud to have that's not revolving around a title.
Yeah, I don't mind either of those options. But the answer to me is that's my only concern coming out of that match last night is where do you go with Claudio? Because he's so dang good. He is so dang good. But let's get in to the 8-person tag matches, right? The men's and the women's. This was funky, Shad. This was funky of all funky because you can't help yourself. They're honoring Brody Lee, who we love. But we have to be honest with ourselves. It was thrown together last second, right? We don't have, we had Preston Vance in the men's one, but the majority of the Dark Order not really in these matches. It was a tribute match for the sake of a tribute match, it felt like in some ways, which is still a tribute to Brody Lee. And shout out Brody Lee, amazing performer and, you know, rest in power, my friend, no question. But what were your thoughts on both matches? What do you think about is there anything in either of the two that you saw that can build to anything in the future?
There is actually. And I'll get to that in a second. The first one talk about is the men's match. It was whatever. It was definitely a randomized match, and I'll be completely honest with you, man. Until it clicked in my mind before the match, I totally forgot that Preston Vance was in the match, and I forgot that him being a pivotal part of the Dark Order, like it just completely went out of my mind. And I'm just like, why wasn't this like that's a very strong story to kind of push going into this match. You could have told it last week. You could have gave him an opportunity to talk. A backstage segment, him talking to LFI, telling him like this match means a lot to me. Like I have something big I have to do next week. And that's the unfortunate part of it because it just felt like a random 8-person match. So in the men's match, I don't think a whole lot will come out of it. I don't have the confidence that we'll see something with as talented as Preston Vance is. I don't know if they're gonna give him a push after that. It's just kind of one of those he gets, a win at Daly's place, commemorating, the late great Brody Lee, which is always cool within itself, but there wasn't anything progressing after that. Um, it was just kind of a thrown together match. The women's match, more or less kind of the same thing. I was a little bit happier with that match, and I'll say this: I was glad to see Thunder Rosa back. I think that she's a person that needs to be presented like the star that she is, like the main eventer she is for the women's division. But it was cool to see her back on Dynamite. It was great to see Julia Hart and Sky Blue once again. They felt like superstars yesterday. That entrance felt very special. Julia Hart's presentation is one of the best presentations in professional wrestling, in my honest opinion. We give a lot of great, you know, kudos to what Tony Storm is doing, and she's killing it with her character. I think Julia Hart is killing it with her character because she looks like $1,000,000 walking out to that song with the lights, with the clothes, with the hat, her mouthing off to the song is great. But the winner of last night to me was Anna Jay because I think they
There you go.
pipelined a little bit more of a story with her winning the match. And then just off of the fact that I think this is kind of like you saw more life within her in the ring, and you saw her back as a baby face. I think she was stuck in the mud with the Jericho Appreciation Society after Ty Conti was out. The tag team with them was gone. She is a baby face, and she is someone that the fans like a lot. We've seen Anna Jay grow up in AEW as a wrestler, progressively getting better. This is someone that AEW fans like. This is a young pup growing into a big dog eventually. So I think this was a good opportunity for her. She got the win, which is always great. And it also streamlined a reason for us to want to watch Battle of the Belts on Saturday because I think her and Julia Hart could actually be an interesting feud if you gave it a little bit more time. But her getting the pin over Sky Blue, kind of making us ready for this match on Saturday. I'm not too mad at it. Uh, I don't like seeing Sky Blue taking L's. I think Sky Blue is probably one of the most underrated workers in that match, but that's neither here or there. But overall, I mean, it was one of the lower parts of the night with these matches.
100%. I hear you on that, and I agree with you. That is to me the low point in last night's show. We got a few comments here we'll get to really quickly. We got one here from Brett Sternberg. He said worst show in AEW history, and I'm a huge fan. Shaking my head, disappointed from where they were a week prior. This card was a mess. I disagree with that one, but I do agree with this one. He said, "Love y'all, love you too, Brett. Appreciate that." Um, and then we also got a comment here from Bobby Tito. He sees all the potential in Anna Jay, which I do too. I think Anna Jay could be an absolute juggernaut in the women's division in AEW.
Sure,
She's
sure.
immensely talented, and I agree with you on getting stuck as a heel. I don't think that role fit her per se, as well as we thought.
The person that we're talking about next is the reason why Anna Jay is stuck, but we'll get to that soon.
Absolutely. Okay. Let's get into, like you said, let's get into Ricky Starks and Sammy G. So we got Ricky Starks and Sammy Guevara. Guevara goes over with an inside cradle, which is not what I saw coming. Ben made a great point yesterday about headed into a title match. Sometimes it's nice to see the challenger get a win, especially with the tag titles. You have the singles win to show momentum heading in. I still don't love it myself. Not my favorite segment of last night, but I did enjoy the match. I was thoroughly entertained by the match, and I'm excited for the tag match. Anthony, what are your thoughts on Starks versus Guevara?
I think this is one of those matches that, it's two AEW originals. Starks isn't necessarily considered a pillar, but he is part of that original group. Both of their careers are pretty much parallel in the sense that they've had a lot stop starts. There are different points where I think the company has faith in them and then they instantly lose it. Starks personally, I think he may be on his way out. I had that impression. But I could be wrong. I thought that was an odd choice on how to do the finish, especially beating him clean. I don't know if part of the reason is they really didn't want Jericho out there, because of the controversy around him, which is why when he did come out, they kept playing the music, which, by the way, I thought was a completely dumb thing that they played the music and Starks and Bill, who were beating down Guevara, don't look up the ramp. They look the other way. Don't look at the ramp that he possibly is going to come under. Look the other way. I thought that was odd, but I thought it was all right for what it was, but it's one of those things that I don't know if anything's really going to come of this. Like, Guevara seems to be the lackey for life. So even if he wins the tag titles with Jericho, is it really going to do anything? It just further ties him to Jericho instead of being a single star. And Starks is somebody that has all the talent in the world to be a single star. And it doesn't look like AEW is going to do that.
I hear where you are coming from there, although I will say the fact that he's got a belt on him makes me think that, that they are willing to push him. But I believe he should have won last night. And Bobby Petito even added Ricky Starks should have won this match against Sammy Guevara. I think so too. It makes more sense to me in that regard. Yeah, and then Brett Sternberg added that they had to play the music, otherwise the crowd reaction would have been boring, or booing him out of the arena.
Mm-hmm.
It's very possible.
I mean, when you look at it, Starks a few months ago was feuding with Bryan Danielson, and now he's kind of in this weird booking move.
He's in a weird spot, but he still is one half of the tag team champs. It's bizarre. It is weird to say that about one half of the tag team champs, that that he's being held back, right? Like he's carrying gold, but I do hear where you're coming from. Speaking of tag teams, let's talk about the Texas Tornado match real quick, right? Let's talk about Sting and Darby Allin. Sting, probably his last match in Jacksonville. I mean, you can say that about every city he performs in. Here on the way out against the Don Callis family, Takeshita and Hobbs. A lot of people thought we weren't going to see Sting go over, that it was time to put over the Callis family yesterday. I'm not going to lie. I've said it so many times. If you go see Billy Joel, if you go see the Rolling Stones, if you go see a band like that, you're going to see them play the hits. Sting played all the hits. And
That's
then
what he's doing.
he added in an encore with a Scorpion Death Drop through the table. I do understand the complaints on putting people over on the way out. I will remind people that the Boneyard match, The Undertaker won. Not everybody goes out on their back. I love that tradition as much as anybody, but not everybody goes out on their back. And this also is not his final match.
In all fairness, and I know you got to get the next thing, but Sting has put people over throughout his 40-year career. It's not necessarily required
for years.
Yes.
No, my point is, I'm tossing it to you because what do you think about his potential retirement match and who it's going to be against? And did you have any issue with last night's booking on that match?
I didn't have an issue with the match itself. I personally have never liked the coffin drop, only because believability factor. I'm going to throw myself backwards off of a thing, and this guy's going to catch me. Samoa Joe's is the most realistic because he just walks away and lets you crash and burn. Like, to me, that's realistic. I thought Takeshita got up too soon. I was fine with Sting doing, what he did in the match. I don't like the Young Bucks being his final opponents. I know there's the story coming out that he picked them. I just don't think the style's going to work. They're not known as a slow pace, and it's just not going to work. To me, I would have preferred him against Darby. Sting going, you've been under my wing. I want you to be my final opponent. You deserve it. You've been with me the entire run. I thought Darby would have been the right choice. I think somebody like Christian could have been the right choice because Christian can carry him through it. Edge could carry him through it. I don't think the Bucks are the right choice to let Sting go out the way he should. I mean, if he picked them, fine. I think it's the wrong choice, personally.
I hear you on that one for sure. I would say, yeah, it just, for me, I didn't have an issue with the way it was booked. Let me put it this way. I get where you're coming from on the Young Bucks thing, but that is still speculation. And because it's unofficial. No, to your point, right?
Yeah.
So that's where I'm like, I'm kind of hoping it's not as well. Shad, I do got to ask you about that match last night. What were your thoughts? Did you have an issue with the way it went down with Sting picking up the victory? I thought the Scorpion Death Drop through the table was fun. It's probably the last time we'll ever see a table spot with the Scorpion Death Drop and Sting involved, right?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not upset with the ending. I mean, I'm not upset with the outcome of the match because we have Sting for this short period of time left. We're not going to get him an ample amount of matches and whatnot. So you got to get him some wins. It's more so it becomes a situation where I don't like the match set for it just because I'm very high on the two competitors that he's going against, and that's Powerhouse Hobbs and Takeshita. And I don't like seeing Powerhouse Hobbs taking losses, man. Like, I don't think that Sting and Darby in theory would ever win a tag team match against those two guys because they're more superior as big, strong competitors and whatnot. But it is what it is. That's the booking decision of it. The match was fun for the most part. You got a lot of crazy spots. Them swinging Darby together and him throwing them up like a like a rag doll. Like that part was definitely one that will be used online for meme purposes and whatnot. But yeah, my issue is with the post match too. And I know that it's a difficult place because this is opponents that Sting has chose to go against in his last match. If that's his decision, that's fine. I'm not gonna insult what he wants to do, but it isn't a match that has me jumping for joy. Will the match be good? Most likely. The Young Bucks are one of the best tag teams in professional wrestling history, and it's one of those situations where I'm just not that excited for it. There isn't a lot of storytelling to it. I think the story aligned to it was Darby versus Sting, Danielson versus Miyagi, and Sting maybe possibly giving Darby the win, passing the torch. I thought it would have been way more captivating of a main event for his last match. Darby is a great seller. He will sell that Scorpion Death Drop like crazy, probably. It, it's not. Maybe I'll grow to it as the pay per view comes closer. But that being the final segment with the Young Bucks and their lack of mustache, whatever they grew on their on their
Upper lip.
upper lip. I don't know, but yeah.
I hear you there. I gotta say, though, a reversal spot into dueling Scorpion Death Locks to send Sting out to the sunset, I wouldn't hate. Because I don't think he's going out on his back and putting over the Bucks. I think if that is the way it's booked, Sting and Darby are going over. And dueling Scorpion Death Locks, dueling taps from the Young Bucks, the reception in Greensboro, that to me could make sense.
The only way I could see the Bucks winning is if Flair turns on Sting. And he's the voice behind the Bucks' new attitude. I think in theory you could do that. Their old history that he's there for them and he's not. I do think he looked. By the way, I thought he looked horrible in there doing the Flair chop to Hobbs, and I went, "Isn't this not a no DQ match?" And he's doing it right in front of the ref. Like, what was that
was
about?
he doing?
He went in and did the Flair chop to the Powerhouse Hobbs, did he not? During the match?
I'm not sure. Did he? Oh, you mean the chop block?
No, he went in the match, did he not? It was during the match.
Yeah, he went in the ring. Yeah, he went in the ring and did
No,
it.
it was a Texas tornado match.
Yeah, but that's not no DQ.
Yeah, it is.
It is no DQ.
Is
Texas
it?
tornado is no DQ.
Okay.
Yeah. That's why the table spot was it was a no DQ match.
Okay.
It was a no DQ match last night. Also,
Ric Flair terrifies me walking down the ring, man. It looks scary, bro. I'm not gonna lie to you.
I could tell you when he came out in Philly when he made his debut, when the cameras were not rolling, somebody helped him down those steps.
Yeah.
It's not good.
100%. Okay. We've also got a comment here from I thought Darby and Sting will be taking on FTR at AEW Revolution from Bobby Petito. That'd be interesting.
That's honestly, the match. I'd be a hypocrite if I said I would be excited for that and not the Young Bucks because it's the same type of match. I think I view highly of both of those guys, both of those teams as tag teams. It just doesn't fulfill a storyline.
It would be interesting because they were involved with Steamboat's last match. And they're very tradition. So I think they would be able to mask a lot of the issues that Sting may have to his limitability better than the Bucks can. Personally, I think FTR might be better at that.
100%. Now it's Thursday. Let's get in to Throwback Thursday. We saw the Monday Night Wars in the late 90s.
Mm-hmm.
And then we had a second attempt at the Monday Night Wars. Mm-hmm. Well before the Wednesday Night Wars. Mm-hmm. We had the second attempt at the Monday Night Wars. I believe it was TNA on Spike TV.
Mm-hmm.
Putting Impact on Monday nights head-to-head with Monday Night Raw. Anthony, resident historian, break down the situation for me.
Okay, this is part 2 of what we started last week. 14 years ago, Eric Bischoff and Hulk Hogan were brought into TNA. to try to bring the company to the next level. That's what Dixie Carter envisioned with them. They wanted to go head-to-head with Raw. Not Bischoff's the originator of that. I don't believe that was 100% his call, but that's what they wanted to do. This is what led WWE to counter program with Bret Hart returning to WWE. This experiment of going head to head with Raw ended up lasting about 4 months before they went back to, I want to say Wednesday or Thursday, whatever night Impact was on at that given point in time. This was something that they went from, I believe, 8 to 10 o'clock. And Raw at that point was 9 to 11. So they had the first hour unopposed. And I remember that Impact because of how many problems they had. They had debuts. Ric Flair debuted on it. Jeff Hardy came back. I think RVD was on it. I remember the opening match was some dome type thing that they had to escape. And I remember they had difficulty with it. Like, I'm like, if this is people's first exposure of Impact, this match was not the right move because it looked horrible. The whole first hour, they hyped up Hulk Hogan making his debut in TNA. And I remember the ridiculousness of it. They showed the airport, and they said the car was coming in and all this other stuff. The first 5 minutes of Hogan's promo when he came out there was, I've been in the back all day with the boys. You spent the whole first hour hyping up his debut and saying he wasn't there. And he just said he was there all day. Obviously, this failed. Impact ended up getting like a 1.5 rating, which Raw doesn't even fully get that these days. And Raw ended up with like a 3.6. And Raw continued to kick Impact's butt the entire 4 months. This is one of those things that the experiment, as somebody that grew up during the Monday Night era, was looking forward to it, but Impact didn't have the firepower that Bischoff had under Turner. It was a nice attempt, but realistically, it was not going to succeed.
I believe like the best result we got out of it was the big video game push. Right? That video game was kind of fun on 360. I don't know if you guys played it.
I've played it. That, where you get
the game was
mode,
fun.
The story mode where you like get like a concussion or whatever.
That was the one with suicide that they created the character and then eventually came onto TV. Yes.
Yes. And Carlos added in the comments here, AEW could do a behind the scenes of Sting to lead up to Revolution this year. Mm-hmm. I would die for that. I mean, I thoroughly enjoyed what was done with The Undertaker. That documentary over on Peacock I thought was outstanding. Yeah. But anyway, on the TNA subject though, the video game was fun as could be.
It was, man. It definitely did feel like an old timers event that show is, especially with Hogan, man. Like
I've been sitting in the back with the boys the whole time line though, Anthony.
Yeah.
I remember distinctly watching that. Went, you hyped the entire first hour that he wasn't there.
It was such a mistake.
Blew it up.
It's like, oh no, why did he say that? Yeah, it was just a nightmare. And what was brutal about it was at the time, if you were looking for anything even close to like a secondary or alternative product, as far as WWE is concerned, TNA was the best choice. So it felt exciting when the announcement was made. It felt like this was going to be something in the right direction. And then it just seemingly, unfortunately, fell flat on its face. The resiliency of TNA to then rebrand as Impact, and the fact that we have total nonstop action wrestling in 2024 is almost absurd to me to think about in hindsight.
It's truly amazing if you look at that company as a whole and all the mistakes they made from management and how much talent they've lost over the years. They really are the zombie promotion. Like they cannot be killed.
I mean, wild.
It was more than a few years ago, but do you remember it was during the Billy Corgan exit and there was financial issues, and there was rumors flying that.
So it's post Dixie Carter. I'm sorry.
Yeah, Dixie was still there. But do you remember it was a weird point? It was just before Anthem bought them, and there was speculation whether or not WWE was going to buy them because they had a pay-per-view that weekend, and the speculation was, is this going to be Vince? I have this in my hands all over again.
That's right.
And then Anthem ended up, ultimately buying it and really are making a push to not compete with WWE or AEW, but to be the true alternative. And there's a lot of hype surrounding Hard to Kill this weekend.
100%. With that, though, that does bring us to the end of our show today on Throwback Thursday. This has been an awesome show as usual. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. If you haven't already liked and subscribed, please do. It means the world to us. We really appreciate you for tuning in and all the comments. Everybody out there, monster shout out. Anthony Shad, thank you so much for joining me. Like I said in the intro, check out Off the Air, me and Shad and Drizzy interviewing Mr. Amazing, and more importantly, stay tuned. Not more importantly, equally as important. Stay tuned for Sold Separately with me and Anthony, and we'll see everybody soon. We'll be back same time, same place tomorrow. Not exactly. It'll be actually noon Pacific, 3 in the East, 8 Eastern, and that's 9 a.m. Hawaiian, my friends. Talk to everybody soon.